everyone, John and Ray here, slingshotfutures.com, and welcome to the Daily Futures Market Outlook, where we take a look at our big markets and we make a plan for tomorrow's trading. Now, tomorrow going to be the 14th, going on Wednesday, and man alive, if you were waiting for news this week, well, it may not have happened on Monday or Tuesday, but it certainly is going to be happening tomorrow. We have a ton of news on the calendar for tomorrow, and, well, it's all or nothing, it seems, this week, and that kind of felt like how the market wanted to move today as well. But before we jump into the charts, as always, make sure to swing it over to slingshotfutures.com, scroll down, and click on the Join the Daily Outlook newsletter. That's going to let you sign your email up so that we can notify you every single time this video comes out. Along with that, in that email, we're also going to talk about all kinds of different stuff. Stocks, cryptocurrencies, you name it. If it moves and we can trade it, it's probably going to be in there. So a great newsletter to get your hands on. Don't forget, at the bottom of the page, twice a day, in the morning and in the afternoon, we have a live trader example or a market psychology video that is posted in the afternoon session. We go over one trade or something that happened that day of interest. And then, of course, every single morning we have our live trader morning prep levels, where we go over the major levels of support and resistance for us to be keeping an eye on for that day. If you haven't done so already, make sure to click on the live trader subscription and trial info. You can sign up for a one-day trial, sit down with us in the room, and see what we're doing every day. You get to see how we trade and what our approach to the markets are, and it's just a great way to kind of get your, dip your foot in a little bit and kind of get a feel for what we're doing and how we do it. Now, of course, if you enjoy it, you can always sign up for a weekly or monthly subscription. And, of course, if you join as a full VIP member, you get the live trading subscription as part of the package. Now, taking a look at the euro so far this morning, not a whole lot going on, in terms of movement. We opened up right over here, and we're going to be closing right here. So on the daily, we're going to be having another really ugly looking candle. Lots of wick on the top, lots of wick on the bottom, a very slightly bullish candle inside here, and not really much accomplished. The buyers defended the lows very well, but then the sellers defended the highs very well also. So we're not really getting much traction. That could be due to the mass amount of news that's going on tomorrow. It should have a large impact on the euro. And if we zoom out and we look at the overall trend, we're still stuck inside of the prior day. We haven't even broken out of that. So this whole area here, we're likely just kind of seeing a wedge form. We're not getting a whole lot done. And until that breaks out, which will probably be tomorrow, then we're just going to have to assume we're in a range and we need to buy low and sell high. Now, in terms of areas of support and resistance, we do have the support below us at 11,960, let's just say 11,970 for rounding purposes. Obviously, that big 12,000 level is right there on top of everything else. So that area is going to be a pretty big zone of interest. Above us, we have 12,160 and 12,215, and those are going to be the locations that we're looking to kind of play around with for the buy side on the lows and the sell side on the highs. And as long as we're in the middle, which is where we are right now, pretty much in a no trade zone. So not a whole lot going on right now. We need the market to move to one of those extremes, and then we can start looking for some range fades into the overnight session. Over on gold, we have a nice failure off of the lows. The buyers came in with a conviction at the bottom. The sellers tried grinding lower, a little bit of a data feed problem there, but we get the picture either way. We tried grinding the bottom edge. They broke down. We had a nice little three-push wedge bottom with an exhaustive end, and we turned right back around and went ripping higher, and now we went to a new high. So overall, the day started off with a new low, into a new high, into a double new low, into a new high. So we may be picking a direction right now and looking to go bullish, but a lot of people would have said that this was looking to go bearish right here, and that didn't work out so well. So overall, given the context, new low, new high, new low, new high, I have to assume, and obviously news tomorrow can change that, but I have to assume that we're going to attempt to cycle back down to a new low. Major levels of support below us along the way, if the buyers do want to take over, going to be at 1265.7, 64.5, 62.7, and then the low edge, 62.1 down to 60.5. And all of those areas along the way are potential buying areas if the market does decide the buyers are taking over. Now, if the buyers don't take over and the news slams the market back down to a low, kind of like how it feels is going to happen, then we can use those areas as resistance. You break through support, they turn into levels of resistance for us to use on the way down. So a multifaceted support and resistance level along the way, but on the first attempt of those areas, I'm going to be looking for buying. On crude oil, another big rejection off of the bottom. The buyers tried grinding most of the morning up, caught a big pullback early in the morning from 2 to 3 o'clock, pushed back up to a new high, and then gave all of it back. Looked like it was going to be taking a big nosedive to the downside, and then rocketed right back to the upside once again. So overall, the buyers have a huge amount of sentiment to the upside, and given this overall movement, well, we have to give the edge to the buyers. Now, we do have a massive upside objective at 46.89. It is very high up there, but it is still an open objective for the buyers to gun for. If we zoom out a little bit, we can see that we are still pretty much stuck in the same place as yesterday. Although we did have a little trap on the lows, we are now approaching the highs. For the most part, not really a whole lot done. That's the same level of support we've been talking about for the past couple days. We are grinding higher. Maybe this turns into a really shallow channel, something along the lines of this, but overall, we're mostly in a range. We're looking to buy low, sell high, and we're still gunning for that major area. And if you notice one big thing here, on crude oil, we have this big breakaway move, and that gives us a upside objective at 46.89. You notice where that 46.89 stacks up? Yeah, I believe we were talking about that yesterday. All of those major swing lows from before, after that monster breakdown, that is also the upside objective for the buyers right now. Everything is starting to stack up in this same spot. So this level right around 47, plus or minus 20 ticks or so, is getting hotter and hotter and hotter until eventually, once we hit it, we could just have a big explosion on our hands. So something to kind of keep an eye on overall, but the buyers still have an upside objective and still looking to stay on the buy side for now until we start reaching up into that major level of resistance. And then finally, over on the S&P, the S&P has a fairly decent upward move. It started off a little bit range-bound, kind of choppy, sloppy, but we get the general idea. We break up, go into a range, break up, go into a range, break up, tried to take it back, and then failed and went back up again. We could be looking at the potential end of this move, at least in the short term, and that's usually denoted by that quick major snap down into a new high. Whenever you have that type of scenario, it's usually more likely to see the market start transitioning into a range, and this entire thing could be that range. So where we're standing right now, we could be at the highs of that range. Either way, though, we don't have enough information to say, yep, this is a range, we're at the highs, we need to sell. There's just not enough to go off of based on that. So because of that, the overall trend is still up for today. We're looking to buy pullbacks, but given the fact that this could be the end of the top, I want to look for slightly better prices. I want to avoid buying too high, just in case that ends up being the top. So instead, I'm looking for a pullback down to 24.34, 32 3/4, 31, 24.30 down to 28 3/4, anywhere that is a little bit lower, right down here. I don't want to be buying up here and hoping it goes further. That's not the type of situation I want to put myself in given the context of the market, so we are looking to buy a pullback. So that's going to do it for the outlook. Relatively quick. There wasn't a whole lot of stuff going on today. Now, in terms of the news for tomorrow, well, there is a lot of stuff going on. We have news starting off at 4:30 out of the UK. That is the average earnings index plus the bonuses for April. The forecast is 2.4%. That is the same as previous. Also at 4:30 Eastern Time, of course, we have the Climate count change for May. Forecast 20.3 thousand, that is, and previous is 19.4 thousand. And then we start getting into the big stuff. Out of the US at 8:30, we have the core CPI forecasted at 0.2%. We have the core retail sales forecasted at 0.2%. And we have the flat retail sales forecasted at 0.1%. So plenty of news coming out at 10:30. Tomorrow is also inventory day, so make sure to keep an eye out for that API candle here in about 20 minutes to give you a slight heads up. But the crude oil inventories forecast for tomorrow at 10:30 is at negative at 2.739. The previous, that surprise number, was a positive 3.295. Again, the API candle that comes out at a little bit later in about 20 minutes or so at 16:30 Eastern Time on Tuesdays, that will give us a little bit of a heads up in what to expect. And then we start pushing into even bigger things. At 1400 tomorrow, we have the FOMC economic projections, the FOMC statements, and the federal interest rate decisions. These are no joke announcements. The FOMC, it's usually creating a situation in the markets where it's early in, early out, and nobody wants to hang around to trade through that. And a lot of folks will leave if they get their profit targets hit in the early morning session. So expect tomorrow, aside from the 8:30 news, that kind of dead zone between 8:30 and 1400 for all of the markets except crude oil, could be a little bit of a disaster. So probably going to be an early in, early out scenario. Be very careful on FOMC days. They can get nasty, and that's not something you want to deal with, especially going on to 1400. Of course, at 14:30, after all of that is said and done, we have the FOMC press conference, and then later in the nighttime session for Australia, at 21:30 Eastern, we have the employment change forecasted at 10,000. So it's an action-packed day tomorrow in terms of news, but because FOMC is coming out later in the afternoon session and the early morning news is at 8:30, and there's sort of that dead period of a couple hours in between there, it could be an early in, early out type scenario where not a whole lot is going on. So that's where the saying always comes in, and that's why we always say it: make a plan, trade the plan, follow those rules, and you'll be A-okay. Until next time, stay safe, and we'll see you all tomorrow.